My name is Tobias Döring, or you can also call me Tobias Döring, which is the English version of my name. I am from Germany and I teach in Munich, at the LMU Munich, and my field is English Literature and Cultural Studies. So for this term at Venice International University, I teach two classes, and one class, which I'm going to talk about right now, is called Shakespeare and the World of Venice. So Shakespeare and the World of Venice, that's the topic of my seminar. And it involves, as the title suggests, the study of Shakespearean drama. Now, of course, many of you will have heard about Shakespeare, will have read some of his plays, seen his plays, perhaps staged, perhaps on screen. So from all the plays that Shakespeare wrote, you will have come across perhaps a couple of plays which he wrote and which are set in Venice. There's two plays, one comedy and a tragedy, which takes place in Venice, or which is supposed to be taking place in Venice, although of course it's a particular kind of Venice that these plays offer. It's a Venice around 1600, a Venice which is full of international people, a Venice in which certain strangers make their appearance. So both of these plays, in fact, focus on the figure of a stranger. And the one play is called The Merchant of Venice, and already the title indicates that location. And the other play is called Othello, the tragedy of Othello, or the Moor of Venice. So even in the title of these two plays, this figure of the stranger is already featured and focused on. And it's always been a great question for readers of Shakespeare, for critics of Shakespeare, but just as much as for directors, actors, or players. What is the significance of this particular setting around 1600 in the two plays of the Venetian society in which they take place? This is what we're going to be looking at. And just to give you a very brief idea, let me just mention why these two plays are so important or so interesting for us to study. The Merchant of Venice focuses on the figure of the stranger as a Jew. It's a Jewish figure, a moneylender, who plays a very important role at the center of this plot and who offers us many interesting ways to try and figure out what early modern people, that is people around 1600 in Europe, understood by Jews, what they had in mind, what kind of cultural or social associations they had when they spoke of Jews. Because Shakespeare here features a Jew on the stage and makes him a very important character in the development of that plot. It's a figure of conflict, a figure also of debate, and a figure of very great interest for us to study. The other figure, Othello, is the figure of a Moor, as the title says, the Moor of Venice. And here again the question is, what did people in England around 1600 think of when they saw a Moor on stage? What kind of Moors did they actually meet? Were there black people in London at the time? What sort of people were these? Where did they come from? What sort of cultural role did they play in English society? We'll be asking these questions and we'll be studying these plays to try and tackle the understanding of what outsiders, what function these outsiders have, what role they play in the society. So the class involves a lot of reading. We'll read the Shakespearean texts, which are greatly challenging to read, also great pleasure to read them, but it's difficult language, early modern language. We'll also look at the way in which the various stagings or filmings or different versions of these plays, the realization of them, have always tried to offer different views and different perspectives on these central figures. So the Jewish figure, as much as the Moor figure, are not fixed and the same all the time, but they change with each realization of the play text, because that is what play acting is really about. It's about changing and interpreting the role with each time and from each place in a different way. And it's greatly fascinating, indeed highly important, to look at the ways in which different periods or different places have tried to make sense of these two figures. And you're also all invited to bring up your own experience from the theater, from your own country perhaps, or from your own background of reading, to try and figure out what it is we understand when we look at these two Shakespearean Venetian plays.